Sorry
There we
about that.
go. No, it's totally cool. You know, this is all learned by doing. You know what I mean? It's
Well, I was trying to get
so
rid of all the comments because it's like all over our face, but
Doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter now. I'm not touching it.
all right. No worry, no worry at all. So I was given a little intro as to some of what you guys do and some of the work and backgrounds, and so why don't I go with that up front? I was telling everybody how you guys are in the business of helping people realize their potential with regard to their health and sort of dial back and pull away from some of the noise, some of the confusion, some of the things that sort of draw us in an intoxicating way. And you sort of help people to sort of take recognition of where they're at, learn from it, and then start building upon it from there so they could own it for the long haul. You know, by way of food, especially, such an important one, you know.
Yeah.
Josh, I know you have a background. You're an occupational therapist. You've got a long fascination with nutrition. You studied traditional Chinese medicine for a few years. You're a fifth-year osteopathy student, and it keeps growing from there, which is pretty amazing. And then Jeannie, I think, yeah, it never stops. And Jeannie, you're craniosacral therapy, am I right? And nutrition as well?
And a clinical nutritionist, yes.
Clinical nutritionist as well. Wow, fascinating. Okay. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to helping or letting some of the folks that I help learn more about what you do, how you guys go about meeting people where they're at so that they can feel confident in owning this process of improving health, improving fitness, improving strength, and yeah, take it from there. I mean, I have some questions that I've written down, but if you guys want to expand a bit about what you do, I'd be more than happy to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's kind of how we met you. You know, you have been with us, not from the beginning because you've been doing this work for so long, but probably from the beginning of when we kind of started the business together and brought it onto social media. And that's kind of how we met you. You know, we've been doing this work a long time. And I think what we really try to bring to the table, and I'm sure you'll comment on this too, is there's so much out there, especially now. And a lot of it is, it's gone to this place of something we always talk about is balance when we talk to clients. And when we bring our approach into the arena with people, we really like to, even on our social media, come across from the point of balance, because we look at everything from the standpoint of the nervous system and our physiology. And the problem is when you look at the industry, the programs, everything that's out there, and I'm not pointing fingers, but we've passed the balance point. And a lot of the stuff that's coming out there is very fear-based. You know, don't do this, don't eat that. SIBO, estrogen dominance. The problem is it's not helping anyone. It's confusing people and it's paralyzing them. So we try to come from the place of balance because we understand the nervous system. And even when you think like that, believe it or not, you're not in that you know, that parasympathetic state, which they call your ventral vagal, which is not where we should be all the time, but it's where we want to be. It's our safe space. But you're always thinking in fear, like food's going to do this, and I can't have this, and blue blockers that, and like that fear-based methodology pulls in a different piece of the nervous system, and that's not where we should be all the time. So we just want to bring in balance with people and help them find not only a way to heal, right, and understand why they're here. Not like I just had a conversation with someone, you know, and she's doing the traditional SIBO, FODMAP, you know, antibiotics. But when we take a step back and we understand human physiology and what causes SIBO, we know that bacteria is not the problem. It's not the driver, right? And we can explain it. That's not the point of this. We have a YouTube video on it. We probably have 10 posts on it. But we want to help people not only heal, find the balance point, but have fun while they're doing that. So nutrition and healing become a part of their everyday routine, but it's not this dragon that they're carrying around on a leash, and it becomes such a tremendous task, and it takes over their entire life.
I think in the approach that we're taking, and in a general sense, in the culture of nutrition, is a lot of more doing. Let's do more to get to this place faster, when in our work and what we've observed is that we really have to give people permission to slow down,
Right.
and to observe and to begin to connect with the things in their lives that are supporting and not supporting, and move from that point of view. I think oftentimes, like today, you have to give people permission to be in their life and to be where they are in their healing process. And then we can start to give it perspective by walking with them and helping them observe what they're seeing and understanding it from a different perspective. And that takes away that fear, it takes away that uncertainty, and allows people to kind of settle a little bit more into where they are right now.
But that goes into a post we put up this week or last week. It was like, let's stop glorifying the grind. You know,
Yeah, I love
because
it. Love that.
we've come to a place in society where, you know, we're afraid to take a day off. You know, we need permission to do that, we think. Like, why can't we take a day off? People are like, oh, I have like 50 hours of PTO. What are you saving them for? Like, we need permission for that. And we need permission to slow down. And we feel guilty if we slow down, if we're doing less. The problem is the way people are moving and doing and doing more, right? And then what we always use it in the term of like fire or energy from the standpoint of money. Most people are eating and living paycheck to paycheck, and they're writing checks that their body can't cash because they're doing so much, even in the sense of health, let's say it, right? Because people are doing the red light therapy, they're doing the diet, the program, the book, they're doing the earthing, all these different things that come into play, the supplements, the biohacking stuff, and their plate is overflowing, and then they add more. The problem is this is all doing, right?
Yeah.
We're not coming back to the place of awareness, which was our post about yesterday and today, or the day before and today, this week. But, you know, healing can only take place when we listen. And listen, that's a hard concept to people to get to understand. We use different right brain and left brain modalities to help people kind of align with that, even just with food logging or brain dumping, like, so you can see it and begin to connect how you feel with what's going on. But if we can't create that awareness and listen, then we can't meet our needs every day. And the problem is when you're doing all this extra stuff, you're not meeting your needs, because your needs are how you're living, how you're eating, and how you're breathing. If those needs aren't met, right, then nothing else is going to have a foundation to work from. The example we always talk with people about is children. We would never do all this stuff with our children. Never.
Sure.
We would never wake up and say, here's coffee, don't eat for 4 hours. Or, you know what, you're going to do intermittent fasting, or you're going to do keto, or you're going to do carnivore, or I need to do all these modalities with you. No, you just want to make sure that your children, and you should make sure that your children are seeing her and acknowledged and responded to appropriately. That's the most important thing. That is the awareness and the need right there, not everything else that we're doing. So we're just trying to get people back to that, because I think we've just disconnected and lost our way, and it's not working. It's not working because we've been in this industry for 21 years, and guess what?
Yeah.
Back in the day when labs came out, it was the wild, wild west, right? You had Dr. Timmons of Biohealth Diagnostics, Metametrics, you name it. And they just came out. I was working with Dan Kalish, and anyone could do them.
I remember those days.
Yeah, you remember that? Anyone could do them.
We were taking hair samples. We were looking for mercury and iron. So it was costing a fortune. Supplements. I mean, endless chase.
But guess what? 20 years ago, all the same discussions about estrogen dominance, all the same discussions about parasites and candida and bacteria. Hey, all the same discussions about everything we're talking about with the same exact discussions we had H. pylori 20 years ago. The only thing that's changed is we have more expensive supplements, and we have more expensive labs that tell you nothing. That tell you everything you already know. They don't tell us how to heal, and it's no different than Western medicine. It's not different than Western medicine. It's just packaged a little bit differently, right? Yeah. So we're just trying to help people understand that that's all good and dandy, but if your basic needs aren't met every day with what you need, you're going to keep adding more and more before you know it, and guess what? Your money's going to be gone, and your energy is going to be gone. right?
This is
And
where
that's where we're at.
I've heard you touch on this about building a foundation before you start exploring all this fun, sexy, creative stuff that may or may not work. You don't have a bullseye. You're not sure if it'll work, and you take a shot. And then you take a shot on this product and this protocol and this lifestyle and this time to wake up in the morning, and then this cold shower versus this hot sauna, and what the timing is in between. You start taking a shot with all these little things, and you talk about it, and you get the validation from your peers, and then you're training more, and you're overloading everything, and suddenly your foundation is very weak, right? You're just distracted across the board.
And oftentimes your foundation has been weak for a long time,
Yes.
right? So a lot of the people that we're working with, and I'm going to go back to what Josh was saying earlier as far as kind of working with a child, because in all reality, a lot of the people that we're working with, we are working at that level of the
Yes.
nervous system,
Yes.
right? We are teaching people, in a sense, how to self-parent. How do I begin to see myself? How do I begin to listen to myself? How do I begin to acknowledge and respond to myself? And the only way that we can do that is to begin to observe ourselves within our lives and not be afraid of what we're seeing, but to give it perspective so that we can be more gentle on ourselves, so we can stop shaming ourselves and, you know, talking down to ourselves and all the ugliness that we can get into our heads about, and get out of all this noise, but be like, oh, you know what? I get it now. This life has been really hard on me, because what we're observing is how well or not we're able to tolerate our environment at all levels, internal, external, emotional, physical, all layers.
But
right?
that's what, when we say parasympathetic nervous system, that's what the parasympathetic nervous system is. There's two pieces of it, but the place that everyone talks about, that's what's called the ventral vagal. It actually just, of course, it's more technical, but comes out the base of the cranium, attaches the face to the heart. So if you put your hand on your heart and your hand on your face, that is the parasympathetic nervous system, right? That is the social engagement piece of the nervous system. What does that mean? And this is where we should be functioning in it every day. But think about it. People aren't in this place because social engagement means I have a healthy, safe, secure, honest, authentic relationship with myself, right? And other people, right? I feel safer on myself, let's say, and I feel safer on other people. But when we move out of that and we begin to not feel safe within ourselves, right? Whether it's low self-esteem, whatever it may be, or the world is going to get me, what's going on right now. Now we're not in social engagement. Now we're in between sympathetic and dorsal vagal. They typically hold hands. Now they're not holding hands anymore. Now we go from, you know, possibly mobilization to fear, danger, right? And that's where most people are living. And guess what? And I know it's big. There's a lot more to it, but I'm trying to put it in perspective.
No, it's
no
totally
matter
good.
what you do, no matter how much you spend on red light therapy, how many supplements you have in your cabinet, how many practitioners you work with that charge you $4,000 to help you regulate your blood sugar and tell you to eat ice cream, you are not going to get results long term. Why? Because you are deep in that piece of your nervous system. Unless you start changing how you're living and how you're breathing and how you're thinking and your habits, right? Which is the foundation for the food to work. It's not going to work. And this is why everyone says, Josh, but I've worked with so many metabolic practitioners, I haven't gotten no result. They haven't gotten result because no one's asked them to change.
Yeah.
And you have, and I say change, I don't mean just food. We've created this illusion that food is going to create utopia.
Yeah.
And it's not. We're strangling it now. We're at this place in this arena here, this nutrition arena, where it's being strangled, right? Because we have a little bit of this for that. We have the carrot salad for this, and the bamboo shoots for this, and the sugar for that. Like now we're just biohacking. Yeah. Right.
Now I'm going to slow down my blood sugar with some olive oil, and it just starts to become this chase. Yeah.
We've got a drink for this and a drink for that, and I'm not saying we don't play a part in this, but I was having a conversation with a practitioner the other day, and I said it's really interesting because the clients that we work with, like I have a client from the Ukraine, and she, acne, bloating, you know, PCOS, all that stuff. She didn't want to do any supplements. She was like completely against them. And she just locked in her nutrition and her patterns. And I don't know how many months, we kind of towards the tail end, but it's been a good 6 to 8 months. She's doing extremely well with no modality. She's actually calmed down. We pulled her away from the maple syrups, the red light therapy, all the supplements. We've dialed it back and just getting more results. And sometimes you get more by doing less.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. We see that all the time. It's often pulling away that we have to do first. And that can feel really, feel very vulnerable doing that, right? But we've kind of got to strip it down a little bit and back to the essentials. And, you know, food is powerful. It's very powerful, and it's very effective in its ability to help us regulate. However, we can't regulate, and we always say this, if we're still sitting in the middle of Vietnam. And when Josh touches on changing our lives and changing the way that we live, it's not about flipping you upside down on your head and shifting gears on everything that you do. It's about building the awareness of, oh, that didn't feel very good to me, right? Or that doesn't feel very supportive to me. And just making one small shift in that direction, taking these small bite-sized pieces that become very powerful when applied in the right way.
Think about it.
That's no small thing. These are
it's
scary places for people to go. Peeling back some of these layers that
of course
pull you out of your comfort arena, that make you feel vulnerable and scared, or open up previous judgments you may have been getting from either your peers or your family or your spouse, etc. Once you start to really face those, it can get pretty scary for people.
Well, you know why? Because we learned that the SIBO that we have right now wasn't because we're a vegan for 5 years, right? It was because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Maybe it was a traumatic birth. Maybe it was a trauma in your childhood. Maybe it was just an accumulation of everything from conception till now. Because guess what? It is, right?
Stress self-induced bacterial overgrowth, SIBO?
Well, that's what we call it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's.
I don't particularly care.
She hates when I call it that. But it is stress-induced.
It is a stress-induced, but it's not an intentional stress.
No, it's not, but it is stress-induced.
Yes.
Yes.
People don't know, and that's the hard part, right? Is that they're putting themselves into these states.
Of course not.
We have a stress potential. Sometimes we can, some people have a bucket, like he's got a swimming pool, I've got a bucket, right? We're very different in that way. We respond to the world in very different ways. And I think that that's really an important thing to understand, because I've had clients come to me in complete, total judgment of their lives and why they are where they are right now. And that breaks my heart sometimes, because it's not as if we choose those things. Those steps that we take, those ways that we learn how to survive, are imperative to our survival. We're just learning today in this moment that it's not working any longer, and we're not okay with that, and we're ready to change.
But that's the part of awareness and saying, what's not working? Not what do I need to do to fix myself in my life, to spend more money, but what's not working right now? And of course, for a lot of people, that's really big, because we work with a lot of people with children, and a lot of people like, the 5 kids is not working. It's exhausting. Well, that's fine. But how do we find ways to help you reconnect? And a lot of the times it's just finding your resources, finding ways to reorient, to bring yourself back into yourself every day. And there's a lot of research out there, based off the work of Deb Dana and Stephen Porges, talking about, like, even just, of course, nature, but even looking at pictures of nature induce a parasympathetic response. Humming induces a parasympathetic response. Of course, breath work induces a parasympathetic response. But it's really fun, and I'm just giving you examples. But it's finding that thing, not just do yoga, because I don't want to do yoga. I don't like yoga. Yeah. Right? It's finding that thing for you. And my point in saying that is, it's really finding the thing that works for you, that makes you go, okay, I'm in my body now. I'm centered. Like for me, it's sometimes she'll come in and I'm just laying on the floor in my office. Like for me, that is very grounding. I used to do it as a kid, If I was hot sleeping, I'd lay on the floor and sleep on the floor. You know, maybe it was a survival mechanism. I don't know, but it's,
100%.
but it's very grounding for me. So, and there's other things, but it's finding those things that allow you to go, okay, I'm in the basement right now. I'm frozen. Or I'm in the sympathetic, and it's now you're creating awareness of how you're there, but how do I create these resources to get me out of there, right? Okay, my kids are overwhelming me. What do I need to do to kind of center myself? What type of schedule I need to create, or, you know, whatever it may be. So I think it's just that awareness so we can start to create the day that we need to create consistency, right? And that's challenging for people because most people, life is beginning to control them. We have to take control of our life. Everyone can do it. It just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of awareness, a little bit of maybe communication, asking for a little bit more help from their spouse or loved one or family. But it can be done. And this is the awareness that has to happen, among other things that we need to do to support the nutrition that you're doing. There's a book that we're reading right now. Jeannie got me to read this book. And it's called Simplicity Parenting, right? Yeah, Simplicity Parenting. And it's really interesting because it talks, every time I think about my clients, and I say this with complete compassion, and even myself, I think of them as children, right? Because if we just do the same things we would do to our children, to ourselves, we would heal. Wake up and eat every few hours, take a rest. Think it's getting crazy. Maybe I need a little time out, whatever it may be. Get enough sleep, you know, be nurtured, love yourself, play. Play is very parasympathetic.
Huge,
right?
yeah.
But it really is just about simplicity when you're trying to raise your children, communicate with your children, giving them options, even the toys in the house. Like we buy all, yes, our child just got into a Waldorf school, so we started basically reading a book. Well, someone just mentioned. So yes, that's why we started reading the book, and it's about simplicity. That's what health is about. It's about simplicity, but we're just, I mean, social media.
It's hard to maintain that in a very complicated world, right? And that's where, again, we have to be really honest with ourselves and set healthy boundaries. But we don't know what those boundaries are until we explore them.
Right. You guys, I often hear you guys mention how healing the metabolism is not complex, but we make it complex. We do. We want it to be really busy and complicated and
sexy. Well, you know what's funny? Most people that work with us, and if they regulate their hormones or their SIBO or their histamine, they always come back and say the same thing after 20 years. They're like, oh my God, that was so easy. I didn't realize it could be that easy. You know, we have a client in our RTN group coaching class that just ended. I mean, she's amazing. And she's tried everything under the sun, from filters to, you know, habits to diets, you know, supplements. And she couldn't regulate her histamine issues. And she just went to her cabin and, you know, didn't have any histamine response just being in the cabin. She couldn't even go in it. And we didn't do anything fancy. Of course, there's a lot to it when we talk about minerals, but we use food and some supplements to really support our system from a functional perspective versus just say food is the problem, because it's not, right? So it's just giving people that platform and looking at things differently and helping them simplify it, because most people that come to us are overwhelmed. We don't want to meet them. If they're here, we don't want to meet them here. Guess what? They're not going to get results. We start them in elementary school, and we take them slowly through each grade and say, you can't go to first until you finish kindergarten. And once you go to first, you can't go until you finish second. We go very slow, because for us, that's the simplicity of it. We have to help them decompress.
But I think it's also when people come to us, they don't know where to start. There's so much, right? So that gives us that opportunity to prioritize and to back down and to get an overview of, okay, who are we talking about? Who are you? Where are you coming from? You know, how did we get here? And then what are all the things we need to look at? And let's start breaking this down. And here's step 1, 2, and 3 that we're going to focus on right now.
We go very slow.
Yeah, and we have
to. And so in some clients that would go through some of these step 1, step 2, step 3, I'm sure in a large group setting, you'll have some that make it to second
Yeah.
grade, and
Exactly.
and others that get to sixth and even eighth grade, right? I remember the class that I was in. I got to maybe second grade in that first one, and there were some that were very well read in peat information and in functional medicine and all these other things. But I made it to second grade, and that for me was successful. That was almost graduation because it pulled me
Exactly.
just above the line I needed to get to, right? So you're going to get varying degrees of growth, but if the person could get comfortable just at their own pace, none of the self-comparisons, just kind of get right where you're at, then you're growing, right? You're progressing.
Leaps and bounds.
But
Yeah.
that's about meeting your needs every day, right? That's
Yeah.
what we say to clients. It's about meeting your needs. You know, everyone's like, what's the best bedtime snack? The bedtime snack that works for you. It's about personalization, right?
Mm.
And you were exactly where you needed to be, right? You don't need to, a program and a practitioner is just a rung on your ladder. They're not the top of Candyland. They're just a rung on the ladder, right? And you got exactly what you needed to out of it. Just because you didn't finish it doesn't mean you're not going to get success, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us think we have to do everything at once, you know, and buy all these things. And I mean, everyone that comes to us is on 5 to 10 to 15 supplements more, you know,
Yeah.
and they're still struggling. They've worked with many practitioners. They've done many courses. So I just
Yeah,
think
they're shopping. They tend to shop. I mean, I find that with a lot of clients is that they're sort of practitioner shopping. They're waiting for someone to
because
save
people
them,
aren't
so to
saying
speak.
what. Go ahead.
But what's unique to what you guys are doing is you're helping someone identify within themselves versus needing to keep shopping so much.
Well, because people aren't saying, what do I need?
Mm.
What do I need? Who is the right fit for me based off of what I need? Most people just go off what they see online, which is great. Everyone's good at what they do. But I think if you find, and that's why we offer a free 15-minute consult. If you go to our
Awesome.
website, you know, and you get our 10 tips to thyroid health in that email, you can set up a free 15-minute consult. We do it for 2 reasons, and we've done it for 20 years. We don't charge for it. We do it so you can decide if we are, either of us, a right fit for you. And we do it to make sure that you're a right fit for us. Because that is the only way you're going to get success.
Right. Very smart. Very cool. I think there's a lot to appreciate about that because there's no shortage of people who have the bells and whistles to sell and that will charge a lot of money to sell them and may not take the time to get to know or help a person self-identify. They'll just give you the list. They'll send you the box of supplements and get you on the protocol. But it's so general and one size fits all. And, you know, people fall away. They end up spending money, frustrated, and they fall away.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I think I want to go back to what you were saying, Adam, as far as getting to second grade. Because I think that the difference in RTN nutrition and what we're doing is that it's a reflection of how you're holding up in your life, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're reflecting back and forth and having it mirrored back to you of how you're holding up in your life, you get to make those changes and you get to build. And they never stop because it's always in response to you. So you know that what you're building and what you're growing is, again, coming back to the foundation, right? It's your foundation. It's how you thrive in the world. So even getting the second grade, you still have the foundational pieces to continue to refine, to explore, to build upon, right? And I think that that's such an incredible thing because that is where I always come back to that. That is where we get empowered. It's like, wait a second. I might, and here's another thing I want to say first. We are so confused about what it takes to heal and the time in which it takes to heal. Right? There is a very unrealistic expectation being set in this culture of nutrition about this healing process. It takes years upon years upon years. It's this foundation and the rebuilding and the refining and the adaptation that's going to allow all of that to begin to present itself.
That doesn't mean
so many layers.
that doesn't mean you're not seeing progress.
No, you're seeing huge progress.
You're seeing huge progress, but we're realists with people. We shoot
Mhm.
straight from the hip. We're honest. You know, it doesn't take 3 months to heal. Yes, when we work one-on-one people, it's around 6 months. Our group is 8 weeks. But think about it. If you are everything from conception till now, right? As Gabor Mate said, you can't separate the biology in the social aspects of someone's life. You can't separate the social,
psychological, biological aspects of somebody.
the psychological and social aspects of someone's life from their biology, right? So we're a summation
Mhm.
from conception till now. So when someone says, I want to regulate my thyroid, right? Let's just go with that, or whatever it may be, and they come to you and you look at their history. How long is it going to take? Let's just say it's been 40 years. You're 40 years old. It's not going to take 3 months to unwind 40 years of debt. Think about your health as money or energy. Most of us were born with $1 million in our bank account, but because of how we lived, you feel it in your teens. You can do anything. You're
Invincible.
be up all night and go to work the next day. Not a problem, right?
Yeah.
But you still have a lot of money in your bank account. But when you start adding that in, and then malnutrition, and then dieting, and overworking, and stress, all these things add up. And before we know it, now it's 20, but now we turn 30, 40, or 50, or 60. We start having all these symptoms, and we realize, holy crap, now I'm in debt. Autoimmune disease, MTHFR, histamine issues, food intolerance, SIBO, you name it. Now you're $1 million in debt. Does it take 3 months to pay off $1 million in debt? No. Now,
stay right there, Josh.
pausing.
Stay right there 1 sec, because I want to bring some people up to speed on your analogy of being $1 million in debt, starting out at birth, right, with a full bank account. That refers to our physiology being very healthy and alive and ready to go. And then over the years, we accumulate stressors, we tap into those reserves, we begin to deplete our energy reserves or our internal resources to survival. And the aging process, there's a gradual downturn of these things as we get older. Add to that stress, verbal abuse, physical abuse, financial stressors, all the things that attack from every angle as we get older and older. So, yeah, there you go. And when we get to 40, 50, 60 years old, the physiology has a much harder time catching up and rebuilding those reserves.
We don't have the metabolic reserves, so we can't adapt anymore. We are adaptive human beings. We can't adapt anymore, and that's what we're seeing, because we're seeing autoimmune diseases. 20 years ago, we never worked with anyone with autoimmune diseases. Now that's all we're seeing. So you have to put it into perspective and say, if it took me this much time to create $1 million in debt, how long is it going to take me to pay it off? A long time. Now remember, not everyone is born with $1 million in debt nowadays. $1 million in their bank account nowadays. Especially nowadays. There's a lot of people that are born with a lot of trauma, and they have way less money. And that's what and that's why we're seeing now. We work with a lot of people in their 20s with no cycle, autoimmune disease, all their issues, because we're less resilient than we ever have been, right? From soil depletion to GMO foods, all these different stressors affect how our physiology works, our energy bank account, our mineral bank account. When that starts going down, you're going to start seeing things not be able to work how they should, right? Yeah. And that's why we're seeing a younger generation now becoming less and less resilient and having autoimmune diseases or no cycles for years in their 20s, right?
Yeah.
So
we're seeing the signs of aging are appearing at younger and younger ages.
Very accelerated.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we just want to put things in perspective for people. So like even with this question that Naomi just asked, what's the best diet for pregnancies? What we teach, our RTM method, is restoration thyroid nutrition method. It's really nutrition based on human physiology. The best diet for anything is no diet. The best way of eating is to eat according to our biology, but in a very personalized way to meet your needs. So to answer your question, no matter what anyone asks, we're going to say our method because it's really based on human physiology.
And you,
Right.
And you
definitely.
to personalize it, right? Because there's a lot of things that go into pregnancy, and most people are going into pregnancy in debt. We're seeing preeclampsia, we're seeing diabetes, you know, you name it. And these are all, if you really study them, they're malnutrition disorders. That's all they
Right.
are, right?
And very often just undiagnosed or unnamed. They're just deficits that are showing up for people.
Right. So there's a lot that goes into pregnancy, from energy to minerals, right? And when you go into debt, that's when you're going to have a lot of your symptoms and have complications, and the list goes on. So what we're trying to do is just help people replenish that bank account, right? So they end up in the green, but they can spend money and feel good about it, right? Because they're still making money and they still have money in the bank. And that's the life we want to teach people to live. And maybe it doesn't happen in 6 months, but we get people on that path, so they've created that awareness that now they have the tools to do that.
The awareness factor is really probably the big one. And I know for myself, when you arrive at a place where you catch yourself, you catch an action, you catch some of your habits and what they're doing to you, that's where the light goes on. It's like, bing, holy cow, what have I been doing all this time? You know, and then you then build from that point. You know, that's where growth starts. Is when the mirror gets held up in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this. I think a lot of us look at illness. I mean, I'm not going to downplay it. I had a health scare in 2014. I've been there. I'm not just like He-Man. You know, we've both been through it. But it's showing us the potential. You know what I mean? What we can do. We just have to, you know, when I was doing training, and this is how we met, she was doing the training as well, and I was teaching for Paul Chek. He said to us at one point, if you want to help people heal, just help them do the opposite of what they're doing. It's that simple, and it's that true.
It really is.
Yes.
It really is. You're cultivating awareness so that people could take charge and steer their own ship. Because if they don't, or they avoid a lot of the stuff that they live with, and they just chuck it up to aging and life and tough luck and whatever, and that's the constant go-to, it does not get cheaper. It gets a lot more expensive. The more desperate you get, the more pain you start to feel. What does everyone do? They start running around to every specialist they can get in front of and attempt to assemble a story about why their body or their mind or whatever it is feels a certain way. But it's all in a hurry. It's all rushed. And then there's no cohesion to how they got to where they're at. Right?
But that's the beauty of like simplicity parenting. You know, and she talks about like, oh, there's these books that are like 1-minute nighttime stories or 3-minute nighttime stories. And it's kind of funny if you have a child because you've seen them and you know them, but it's like children are so present, right? They're so present. It's like nothing else in the world exists when they're doing what they're doing. You know, sometimes you don't even exist, right? So it's like, why can't you be there to read a book at bedtime? You know, you're worried about, oh, how long is this going to take? Or I got to answer my emails or whatever it needs to be. But when it comes down to kind of like what you're saying, the simplicity of it is a lot of these things that are happening to us. This is the hard piece. I'm not saying everything, so don't run with it and you know, understand this is 100% compassion, but we create a lot of it. Sometimes by choice, and sometimes we don't even know we're doing it, right? And we look for, like you said, the quick fix, right? Cholesterol medication, blood pressure medication, you know, or what's a quick diet I can do to regulate my blood pressure, right? You have to understand these are adaptations that your body is showing you to help you survive in this chronically stressed state that you've been under for the past 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
If you didn't have this compensation, you'd be dead.
Yeah.
So it's not what should I take, it's how do I change how I'm living and eating, right? And breathing, or change what I need to do to help my body adapt. Because if you do that, you will regulate your cholesterol. You will regulate your histamine issues. You will support your MTHFR. You will help get rid of the SIBO. You will help lower your blood pressure. The list goes on, right? Now, we're not trying to play doctor and say, go off your
Of course.
medication or whatever. But I think, like you said, we've lost the ability. I just wrote a post on this for you. We've lost the ability to be a child and play and be in that piece of our nervous system and not rush everything. And we think that health, going back to what Jeannie said, is going to happen overnight, and it's not going to. I think when we grab onto that and realize that, that's when some of the healing can really begin, because we'll create the space for it.
Yeah, it takes patience. You have to be willing to put in the time, effort at a pace that you can handle, and then little by little, if you're consistent, it comes. Little things start to open up and reveal themselves, and then suddenly your drive and motivation for it grows. You almost get more excited, and you want to make the changes happen even more. You get less patient for the social circles that don't support your efforts. You get less patient with the comments. You get less patient with all the negative energy that may be holding you where you're at, and you're not even sure that it's negative. You're just in it. Suddenly those things start to look like, like you're the lion at night, and those hyenas are coming from every angle, and you can't see them, but you hear them, and they're getting closer, right? You begin to recognize where the outlet is, and that's the encouraging part, is when you peel back and stay on it, or stay in the process just enough to then catch that little ounce of motivation from the efforts,
But I think that a big part of the healing process is falling back into old behaviors. And I love that part of the healing process, right? Because it's such, again, another reflection of, this is how I'm going to feel if I do this versus this. And it adds a whole nother layer of motivation, like you're saying. Like, oh, wait a second, I am on the right path, right? So to get that reassurance and validation is a really powerful piece of the process.
I'm all about analogies, and I look at
Love it.
clients as addicts too, right? Think about it. What addicts are not, it's not about a drug, it's about behaviors and patterns. And the only way addicts can really create a better life is create better habits and behaviors, right?
Right. It's not food that puts us out of balance, it's bad habits.
Right. But addicts are always going to relapse into old behaviors, and that's what we do when we're healing, right? We're addicts in a sense, and we have to create that change. But those behaviors that show you how you don't want to live anymore, or what you can learn from that now, where before you would just bang your head off against the wall. So now you're learning, and now you're growing. It's a very different, mindset.
And you have the tools to come right back to where you were.
Exactly. Now you have the tools.
So there's your power.
Yeah, that's what's unique about the Restoration Thyroid Nutrition Program, is you're offering tools. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'm curious, hacks, biohacking, all of these different things. I've enjoyed hearing some of your animated opinions about hacking, shortcuts.
Hers?
No.
I don't have any opinions.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to each their own. To each their own. Of course, I have opinions on it. But, I think a lot of people that do that are just not ready to heal. Maybe they're taught, maybe they're not aware. We're just trying to take the elevator to the top, and not really go through the steps. That'd be like, I'm just going to try to get my, doc PhD online and print a fake certificate. We haven't done the work. Not to say that it's not work, but you're just trying to micromanage levels, just like Western medicine does, versus actually create the change. It's causing, it's a control mechanism, right? It's a defense mechanism. So whether you want to call it biohacking or all the use of these supplements that people are using, like methylene blue, we don't fall into the category of any of that stuff. Do we use supplements? We do, but it's very strategic, based on cellular energy, because that's what our focus is on. How do we get our cells to breathe? That is it. Because if your cells can't breathe, you're producing inflammation, calcification, right? That happens, you can't regulate the nervous system. List goes on. no matter what you do, you're never going to put out the fire. So we just use very strategic things. There are a lot of supplements in the world that say they can help with that, sure. But when you understand biology, you know they really don't do anything. So we don't biohack in a sense of like, let's just take a ton of supplements to manipulate different hormones, to manipulate how we feel or our energy, etc. We're trying to create a foundation. So if we did pull all that away, guess what? We have stuff to fall back on. A lot of these people will pull that away, and guess what? They have nothing to fall back on. Nothing is there. They're going to be completely lost, and everything they've created will be lost overnight.
Right. Then it's only a matter of weeks before then they go buy it all again. And it becomes that doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result thing.
Right.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are, you have a program beginning sometime soon again in September, is it? The RTN...
September 1st, our RTN group coaching enrollment just opened up this week. You can go to our website at eastwesthealing.com and check that out. You'll see RTN coaching and the link, click on that, and then just click on the group coaching. You can find it. If you got questions about the course, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, well worth it.
It's an 8-week course, and it's the foundational pieces of our work, nutritional piece, and some minerals and supplements to help people really kind of get on the path and trim the fat and get your cells working better again.
Yeah, and it's important that I relay this message to you guys as well. Like, most of what I do in my practice is a combination of exercise and teaching people about mobility and flexibility and why things get weak and why things get tight, et cetera, et cetera. It's definitely more exercise and movement focused and some lifestyle, right? And some health and food as well. But where I'm so attracted to the method and program you guys have put out, and why I've been in sort of always on the outside watching and paying close attention, is because I recognize how it's the physiology and the metabolism that improves everything that my clients are coming to me for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even coming down to, for example, muscle weakness and muscle tightness, the whole argument about agonist and antagonist and all this is always showing up weak because that's too strong or too tight, et cetera, these compensatory mechanical things. But when it comes down to it, if the internal conditions are not recovering properly, you're always going to have neuromuscular inhibition. You're always going to have things giving up at the ankle and pronating too much or too little, or neuromuscular compensation is being directed by the brain and nervous system and by the energy reserves to some degree. Am I right?
Oh, 100%. Even minerals too. Even more so minerals as well. You know, yeah. I mean, if you think of the posture of someone in a sympathetic state, you know, tight, wound up, you know, or someone in like a immobilized, frozen state, what does that tell you about their musculature, their fascia? I mean, fascia is such a huge thing in our society. Foam rollers, roll, you know, no, this
vibrating
is the
tools,
exercise. But if someone's locked in that state, you know, so
this is where, and this is exactly where your program helps. It brings a piece of the puzzle that is not often thought of in exercise communities. Yeah. But it's an absolute marriage of information there, you know. So appreciate what you guys are doing continuously.
Yeah, we appreciate you having us on.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Any time or anything you want to ever hash out and get on here, I'm all open. So maybe we'll try it again.
Anytime.
All right.
Yeah,
man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. That's great.
So good to see you both. And thanks for sharing your brains. And once again, Restoration Thyroid Nutrition Program opens in September. Check out their YouTube channel. Lots of goodies there. East West Healing on YouTube. And here on Instagram at Real Food Gangsters. And is it at Real Food Gangsters on Facebook also? Or is it...
It's East West Healing. If you go to our website, you can find all of it. But if you really go to our Instagram, you'll be able to find like our website and all that stuff.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Be good, guys.
All right.
Thank you, Adam. Have a good one.
Take care. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you again the next time around.